My abusive dad demands to see my sister's baby. That's the line that's been playing in my head nonstop for the last 2 weeks. My dad, the same man who threw my sister out on the street at 20 because she wasn't giving him enough money, suddenly thinks he deserves to be a grandfather. Let me rewind just a bit. I'm 20 now, the youngest daughter in my family. I grew up in chaos. My dad was abusive in every possible way. Yelling, breaking things, calling us names, sometimes worse. My oldest sister, let's call her Megan, was the first one who actually escaped. When she was working full-time and barely making $200 a month, he forced her to hand over 1,000 of it to him, every single month. When she finally pushed back, he kicked her out. No money, no support, nothing. And you know what? For 3 whole years, he never once asked about her. Not a single time. Even though he knew I kept in touch with her, that she and I talked every day. It was like she didn't exist. But the second he found out, through one of my aunts, that Megan is pregnant, suddenly he's Mr. Family First. He starts blowing up my phone, demanding I help him reconcile with his daughter. He even said, and I quote, "She doesn't get to decide. I have rights as a grandparent." When I told Megan, her answer was immediate and firm. "Keep him away from me. I don't want my child growing up anywhere near him." And honestly, I couldn't agree more. So I sat down with him. I thought maybe, just maybe, there was a tiny chance he had changed. But the second I told him Megan wanted no contact, he exploded. He called her an ungrateful bitch. He started ranting about how she owed him respect, how blood is blood, and how he'd fight for his rights as a grandfather. That was the moment I lost it. I yelled right back, "If Megan wasn't pregnant, you wouldn't care if she was dead. You ignored her for years. You don't get to suddenly claim her just because she's having a baby." And of course, now my whole family is turning on me. They're saying I'm heartless, that I'm tearing the family apart, that Dad has changed. But if this is what change looks like, then tell me, what exactly has changed? Because all I see is the same abusive man, looking for a new way to control us. So here's my question for you. Would you have let him back in? After that fight with my dad, I honestly thought things would calm down. Like maybe he'd blow off steam, sulk for a few days, and then drop it. But nope. That's when the rest of my family swooped in. And suddenly, I was the villain. One of my uncles called me up and said, "Your dad has changed. He doesn't hit your younger siblings anymore. Why are you being so cold-hearted?" And I just sat there thinking, really? That's your definition of changed? The bar is literally on the floor. See, here's the thing. Maybe he doesn't raise his hands on the little ones anymore. But he still screams. He still smashes furniture. He still makes everyone in the house walk on eggshells. That's not change. That's just a different flavor of the same abuse. And let's not forget, the second I told him Megan didn't want to reconcile, his mask slipped. He didn't sound like some remorseful father begging for forgiveness. He sounded like the same old tyrant, furious that he wasn't getting his way. He trashed Megan, called her names, and insisted he had the final say because he's the father. That moment said more than any apology letter ever could. Actions speak louder than words. And his actions screamed that he hasn't changed one bit. But try telling that to my family. My aunt kept saying, "It's not about you. It's about the baby. The baby deserves a grandfather." And I had to bite my tongue not to laugh out loud. Because what baby deserves to grow up around a man who used to terrorize his own kids? Some of you might know this, but in the US, grandparents' rights are barely even a thing. And even in the states where they exist, the grandparents have to prove they had a close bond with the kid before being cut off. My dad hasn't even seen this baby. It's not even born yet. He has 0 rights. None. What makes it worse? The guilt trips. My cousin texted me, "You're heartless. You're destroying the family." And for a second, I almost believed it. But then I remembered, where were all these people when we were getting screamed at? When Megan was kicked out and left to fend for herself? They stayed silent back then. But now that there's a baby involved, suddenly they all find their voices. So tell me, am I really heartless, or am I just the only one willing to call out the truth? The next time I saw my dad, he didn't even bother with small talk. He went straight into it. You don't decide. Your sister doesn't decide. I'm the grandfather and I have rights. I swear, my blood boiled. I asked him, what rights? Where were those rights when you threw Megan out with nothing but a garbage bag of clothes? Where were those rights when you ignored her for 3 years straight? And instead of answering, he did what he always does. He escalated. He started yelling louder, pacing the room like a caged animal. Then came the bang. He slammed his fist into the dining table so hard the plates rattled. After that, he kicked the chair across the floor. This is his version of changed. He doesn't hit us anymore, but he destroys everything around him, reminding us with every crash that violence is always just one step away. And honestly, that's still abuse. He shouted, "That baby is mine too. I have a say in this." I snapped, "No, you don't. That baby isn't your second chance to play dad. You don't get to claim him after abandoning his mother." That shut him up for half a second. But then he came back twice as loud, calling Megan every nasty name he could think of. Ungrateful, disrespectful, selfish. And I lost it. I yelled back so hard my voice cracked. If Megan wasn't pregnant, you wouldn't even care if she was dead. You didn't ask about her once in 3 years. Now you want to pretend you care? No. You don't want family. You want control. And I won't let you near her. The look on his face. It wasn't sadness. It wasn't regret. It was rage. Pure, ugly rage, like he couldn't believe I dared to defy him. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't about reconciliation. This was about winning. About proving he still has power over us. Later that night, I texted Megan everything. She just wrote back, "Thank you. Please keep him away from us." And for the first time, I realized I wasn't just protecting her. I was protecting my future niece or nephew from growing up in the same hell we did. But here's the kicker. If this is how he acts when we tell him no, what would he do if Megan actually let him in? If I thought my dad's rage was the worst of it, I was wrong. The real storm came from the rest of the family. Within days, it felt like everyone had picked a side. And spoiler alert, none of them were standing with me or Megan. My aunt called first. "You're heartless," she said. "He's changed. He doesn't hit your younger siblings anymore. You're the one tearing this family apart." I wanted to scream. So the fact that he no longer punches children is the big selling point now? That's your definition of growth? The bar isn't low. It's buried 6 feet under. Then my grandmother chimed in. He deserves a chance. Blood is blood. And I finally snapped. Where was all this blood is blood energy when he kicked Megan out and made her live on ramen noodles for months? Where were you when he screamed at us until we cried? Where were you when he called us worthless? You all stayed quiet then. But now you want to play peacemakers? Silence. And then the guilt tripping started. Cousins texting me. "You're ruining the family. You're making things worse." An uncle actually said, "If you keep blocking him, Megan will regret it forever." Regret? Megan's only regret is not leaving sooner. The worst part? They all know the truth. They've seen him smash furniture when he's mad. They've seen him spiral into one of his rages. They just don't want to be the target, so it's easier to throw me under the bus. And maybe they're scared. I get that. But why should Megan's child have to pay the price for their cowardice? I keep coming back to one thought a friend told me. Abusers don't really change. They just change tactics. And it fits perfectly. He doesn't hit anymore, but he still terrifies people by breaking things. He doesn't scream at Megan directly, so now he tries to use me as his messenger. It's the same poison, just in a different bottle. Standing in the middle of this storm, I realized something. I wasn't just protecting Megan. I was standing up against an entire family culture built on enabling him. And that's a heavy, lonely place to be. So let me ask you this. Am I really destroying the family? Or are they just mad because I refuse to keep pretending? After the family blow up, I felt like I was standing alone on an island. But then Megan called me. Her voice was calm but steady. "Thank you," she said. "For the first time in years, I feel safe. You have no idea how much this means to me." That moment hit me harder than anything my family had thrown at me. Because really, it wasn't about me. It was about giving her peace, giving her child a chance at a life we never had. But then something clicked. Why was my dad so desperate all of a sudden? Why now? Why after years of silence? And then it hit me. He doesn't want to make amends. He wants control. Think about it. If he can get access to the baby, he suddenly has leverage. He can dangle babysitting, money, help with the nursery. All strings he could pull to keep Megan under his thumb again. He doesn't care about family. He cares about power. People like him would set the world on fire just to feel like they're winning. I told Megan my theory and she went quiet. Then she said, "That sounds exactly like him." She reminded me how when we were kids, he'd buy us gifts after blowing up at us. Not out of love, but so we'd feel guilty enough to forgive him. Classic manipulation. And the more I thought about it, the more obvious it became. If he really cared about Megan, he would have reached out before the pregnancy. He would have apologized years ago. He would have tried to rebuild trust slowly, not barge in demanding grandfather rights. His sudden obsession with the baby isn't about love. It's about control. Meanwhile, the rest of the family still piles on. "You'll regret this one day," they say. "A child needs all the family it can get." But honestly, I don't buy it. A child doesn't need all family. A child needs safe family, loving family. And my dad doesn't qualify. So here I am, branded the heartless one, the family destroyer. But when Megan told me she finally felt free, I realized something. Maybe losing the rest of them is the price I have to pay for protecting her. And maybe that's worth it. But what would you do in my shoes? Keep fighting or back down just to keep the so-called peace? The more I think about it, the clearer it becomes. My dad hasn't changed. He's just swapped one mask for another. When he couldn't control us as kids with his fists, he tried to control us with fear. Now that Megan's about to have a baby, he wants to use the title of grandfather as his new weapon. And my family? They can call me heartless all they want. Because when I picture my niece or nephew growing up the way we did, hiding in their room while plates smash against the wall, learning that love means walking on eggshells, I know exactly where I stand. I won't let that cycle repeat. Not on my watch. The truth is, abusers don't magically transform into loving grandpas just because there's a baby on the way. They don't wake up one day and decide to be kind. They adapt. They find new angles, new excuses, new ways to pull you back in. And if you give them an inch, they'll take your whole life. I told Megan the other night, "Even if it means losing everyone else, I'll be your shield. I'll protect you and that baby." She started crying. Not the sad kind of crying, but the kind where you can finally breathe again. And in that moment, I realized this is what family is supposed to feel like. So yeah, maybe I'll lose my aunts, my uncles, my cousins. Maybe holidays will be awkward or non-existent. But honestly, if protecting my sister and her child means standing alone, then I'll stand alone. Because I'd rather be the villain in their story than let my dad become the monster in a new one. And to everyone saying I'm destroying the family, no. I'm saving the only part of it that's worth saving. But now I want to know what you think. Would you ever let an abusive parent back in just because they demanded grandparent rights? Or would you shut the door for good, even if it meant losing the rest of your family?